So thanks once again for joining. And I can see a lot of people joining. Hello to everybody who's joined in for this live session, our coffee conversations with Juhi. I've known Juhi as my friend's daughter and then a friend. And then we've been interacting off and on. And then she's come back here to Chennai. She's here safe at home. And really happy that you've taken up this decision to speak to us on a huge range of topics about your life, about your journey, about your films, about your childhood, and of course about love, peace, forgiveness. So they are difficult topics, they are complex, but that's what makes them very interesting. So
yeah, thank you for having me over.
You're most welcome. You're most welcome. So we have people who have joined in. Big hello to everybody who's here listening in. Thank you so much for joining in on Milap's live coffee conversations. When we started this coffee conversations, the intent was to look at real people, real stories, and look at people who have really triumphed their own personal pain and their journeys and difficulties through separation, divorce, through maybe losing parenting, losing, not being able to meet their children, and of course, reaching out to a lot of people and adults and young children who coped up with their parents' separation and now are ready to speak about it. So this Coffee Conversations is part of that series. So Juhi, just for an introduction, a formal introduction, although you don't need one on Instagram, but I will like to share that you are a filmmaker from New York and Chennai, currently based in Chennai. You are working on documentaries, fiction films, music videos, and branded content. You have a master's degree in fine arts from the L.V. Prasad Film and TV Institute in Chennai, and another in direction from the Fierstein Graduate School of Cinema, New York. Very interesting. Your most interesting in telling stories about Indian women and children. And something very beautiful that I read about you is your focus is to understand the universal thread of emotion that unites all, irrespective of the boundaries society has placed on us. So we would definitely like to know more about what really drove you to get into that area of specialty. So tell us a little more about your films and your work.
So I think, I mean, like you said, I'm a filmmaker, and when I joined film school for the first time, is when I, for the first time, understood what feminism was. I understood what women's rights were, because till then I had a very myopic view of how society was, and I sort of understood only one side of it. And I thought, okay, after I'm done with this, I'm going to get married, I'm going to have a baby. That's the line I'm going to go to. And I think after watching some really important films, after having really important discussions with my teachers, my peers at film school, I think my perspective sort of opened up, and I realized that the inequality in society was more than I had ever seen. Like, it was all happening in front of me, but I wasn't watching close enough. And I was like, so if I, from like a upper middle class background, have not been seeing this, there are probably going to be a lot more people who are like me, who are probably not seeing the reality that's right in front of them. So I started like pushing more interest when it came to documentary films, and it just so happened that the first documentary that I got to shoot was about single mothers in the Dindigul district, and like just going there, living with these families. I lived with about 4 or 5 families from this village, where it was all single mothers who were running the show, and just seeing their resilience in those sort of environments that they were in, seeing their resilience. And then I realized that, my mother has been doing this. She's been doing the same thing all throughout. And I sort of started drawing parallels between not only Indian women, but like women from abroad. And the things that I started realizing were that these problems were not out of only one place. They weren't like geographically bound. They were more than just Indian problems. They were international problems. And So I decided that I wanted to explore more along those lines. So all of the films that I'm super proud about have all been about women overcoming something, women in the process of finding a solution to their problems, or children, the problems that children go through in our society. So I've done a couple of films about that, and yeah, I think my focus has sort of generally shifted to being more about that side of life, which really needs to be brought up. So yeah.
Yeah, very interesting. And I've been following your films. I've been following the clips that your mom sends it out to me, and it's really surreal in a way to note that, like you said, across boundaries and across countries, they are the same human emotions that trap people. And one of the best ways to look at that internally within your own self as well as for the world outside is films, because they give you such a strong, potent dose of perspective that's really hard to miss. We've been following your Insta posts. We've been reading about your childhood while you've traveled around the world and been shooting at a lot of different places. But Chennai is home for you, right?
Yeah, Chennai is where I was born and brought up, studied everything. Chennai is home.
Right. You do write a lot about your childhood here, a lot of memories with your parents, with your sister. So tell us a little bit about the Juhi that nobody knows, if I may ask that question.
I mean, I think the Juhi that nobody knows is this sort of doesn't exist. I'm very open about my life now. My friend calls me TMI queen, too much information queen, because I give a lot of information about my life. And I mean, that's sort of been, I think I realized that we were all living within too many, behind too many veils as the Indian society is. And I was like, we're all going through similar experiences. So why are we putting all of this behind, all these different padas, you might say. So that's why I started becoming more and more open about my childhood and, the experiences I went through. Also, this time of isolation has really given me sort of time after 6 good years to finally sit down and see and think and just notice how far I've come. And so, yeah, I mean, something about my life that nobody knows. I mean, I grew up in a sort of a dysfunctional-ish family. My parents didn't really have a great marriage to begin with, so my ideas about a relationship and marriage were pretty distorted. But even given those circumstances, I still grew up very much believing in love. I grew up believing in good things. I was not a negative kid. I was a very positive, happy kid. Something that no one knows, that when I was I think 1 year or 2 years old, I won something known as the Snuggles Happy Baby Award. My mother is very proud of it still, because she's like, such a happy baby. So that was how I was while I was growing up. I was pretty shy as a kid, even though I was a happy child. I was very shy and reserved. It took a couple of years. It took a lot of arts coming into my life, theater, singing, dancing. I started doing all of that in school, and then through that, I opened up a little more. And in college, I really started exploring and started understanding sides of my personality that I had forgotten. Another thing about me that people don't know is that I actually wanted to be a psychologist. Yeah, I wanted to study psychology after 12th grade, but my mother was not for it at all. And I definitely...
Your sister's made up for it. Your sister's made up for it.
Yeah, she got the permission to do it. I somehow didn't get the permission to study psychology, even though I really wanted to. And I think one of the main reasons why I wanted to study psychology was that I wanted to understand what made people angry. And because I saw a lot of anger when I was growing up as a child, and that's something that's a sort of memory that I just pushed under, that, why did I want to become a psychologist? But more I started thinking about it in this period, the more I realized that, oh, that's why I wanted to do it. And I just forgot that side of myself, and I went deep into filmmaking, because that's the kind of person I am. When I start, I like go really deep into things. But yeah.
So that would have been very liberating when you say that there's nothing really much that that people don't know about Juhi. While in one sense, it requires a lot of courage to put yourself completely threadbare. At the other end, it's very liberating because you really don't, like you said, you don't have any veils anymore. So something that I feel very proud of, and that was basically also my introduction to you through your mother, was when she used to talk about your fundraising, your trip, not trip, your education to New York, and that was something I had never ever heard of. So such a brilliant and a difficult decision to trust yourself completely that you can do this. How tough was it at that point when you saw a lot of saw a lot of your friends being supported by their families and their parents, but you had to do it on your own. So tell us a little bit about that.
I mean, I think I learned early on. I don't know how I learned it. It was probably some subliminal messaging through my mother, and came through like understanding the world to an extent that I like never really compared myself as much with any of my friends. Like my friends used to go for international holidays and like have good relationships with their, with both their parents and all of that. But it never really, it did bother me at times, but I didn't really pay too much attention to that side of life. Mm-hmm. So that was never a thing for me that, this person's getting to do it, but I don't get to do it. It was never that. It was more that I think my way of dealing with that was to just completely push myself so hard into the thing that I wanted till I had it. Till I pushed myself all the way, till I didn't have any option left. And I think that's why I started that's why I even came up with this thing of doing crowdfunding. Because I was like, I've tried every option that there is. I've tried every loan. I've tried every scholarship. This is how much I want my dream. I'm going to give it one last shot. If it doesn't happen, at least I'll know I tried hard enough. That was the initial sort of innocent idea that it started with. But it obviously, like after that, it got way more complex. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't know people think like this. I was doing something so innocently, but I didn't know that people were going to like be judging me this much and be thinking I'm going for a trip. People actually thought I was going for a trip and not for education. I wish it was a trip. It was not, but it was much more than that.
I know it was, you had your tough moments even in that. Apart from the accolades and the admiration that you got from people, you had your tough moments even when you were doing your fundraising, right?
Yeah. So 100%. Sorry, yes. Go ahead.
I read a very beautiful post that you wrote about one of your childhood memories. I think it was linked to your birthday, and I'm going to read a little bit about it. Where you mentioned where your mom would buy you a gift with a label which said "Happy Birthday from Mummy and Papa," and you wished every day was a birthday. And so many years down the line, your mother continues to make sure that both you and your sister receive life with a label which says "Happy Birthday from Mummy and Papa." It wouldn't have been easy, especially now as they are living their own life and they're right now in their journey. How difficult has it been to co-parent, and what is it that really made it possible? So maybe on your mother's perspective or your father's perspective, would you be able to tell us more about it?
I mean, I think we went into this sort of understanding of co-parenting without realizing what it was. My mom was very sure from the very beginning that she didn't want us to have a bad relationship with him. It didn't matter what he had done. It didn't matter what had happened. We still needed to have respect for him as a father, and we still needed to, believe him and love him for whatever he was. So given that's the sort of like beginning we went into it with, and there was obviously a lot of like disappointment and like anger and mostly anger that I had a lot of it till even a couple of months back that was just unresolved. And it's taken a while for me to sort of like unpack those feelings and sort of understand where is it coming from, and how can I start unpacking these things? How can I like let down some of my baggage? Because I realized it had started coming in the way of my relationship. So relationships in life. And so I realized that if I didn't deal with it positively, if I just like shoved it under the rug and didn't think about it, that it was not going to do anything. So the like co-parenting was a sort of a thing that was started by my mother as a concept that we're not going to treat him badly. He's still very much a part of our lives, and we will give him that respect. And I think after I moved away, it made both of us realize what we were missing. Like my father and I, our relationship grew leaps and bounds after I moved away. He was so proud of everything that I had done. He was so proud of, the smallest achievements. And he was telling all his friends about me. And I was getting calls from all over the US being like, your father speaks so highly of you. And I'm like, wow, this has never happened in life. And I did not expect it to happen, honestly. So I think that framework, though we didn't know what it was, it has been it's worked really well for us, because my parents now have a really good working relationship as parents. Like they can have conversations about bringing us up. I mean, I don't really need to be brought up anymore, but like my sister and like whatever conversations need to happen about her, they can do it without bringing their own personal problems in between. So I think growing up in this co-parenting sort of framework that we have going on in our house for till now has been really good for us.
That's really remarkable, because a lot of adult children also that I speak to or meet are not able to let go of their hatred for maybe their, what they feel was their parents' mistake, or the fact that one of their parents didn't want the marriage because of various reasons. And like you said, it really impacts the other relationships in your life. It impacts your own perspective to things and your relationships, close relationships that you have. So while you do say that, your relationship has improved a lot, but what really helped you to get rid of that anger? What helped you to move to that next stage with your father of being at peace?
I think it came out of an understanding later, like more recently, that my relationships were being affected because of it. And I think I was having a conversation with my friend, and I was like, I just don't know why this is happening. Like, these patterns keep repeating again and again. And I keep like going back to the same kind of people. And he just looked me in the eye and said, you need to forgive your father. And it was like, wow, someone like sort of read through this in one sentence. And of course I had thought about it, but I hadn't thought about it as a process. I hadn't thought about it as he's a human being, he's made a mistake. I, as his daughter, need to forgive him for myself. I need to forgive him for myself so that I can move on in life. And as a byproduct of that, I got a good relationship with him. I got a good relationship with myself. And when I started like sort of empathizing with myself and paying more attention to my feelings, I realized I had more space for his feelings as well. And I could understand him at a level that, he doesn't have too many close relationships. So I could understand him at those levels. And I mean, touch wood, I can talk to him about things now, and I haven't been able to do that all my life, really.
So yeah. a lot of times people are not able to understand the word forgiveness. They think forgiveness means you'll have to pardon everything that you feel went wrong, or the other person that they did to you, and you will probably have to take them back in your life. So a lot of times when I talk to people about forgiveness, they actually recoil, and they undergo a lot of severe trauma, thinking, no, I am not ready to forgive that person in my life who did this to me. But forgiveness isn't really just about a level of spirituality or a virtue of, the saints and the monks. It can be a very human feeling? Like you said in a one sentence, someone brought up a perspective which just hit you, and it was about everything that you felt about your dad in these years.
Yeah.
So what makes it so difficult? Why was it that all of these years you were not able to embrace it, and then suddenly it happened?
I think number one was that, growing up, you have expectations for what a parent should be doing for you. And when that's not fulfilled, then you just have all this resentment that builds up. But what I realized growing, like after sort of maturing, was that that's something that this person had to give me, but they didn't give it. So I had to come to terms with that first, that I could not expect from them. And I had to sort of go through the process of reparenting myself and like making my inner child understand that I was safe and I didn't really need anyone else to hold me and tell me that I was safe. And so when that sort of inner strength built on its own, then I was like, what is this resentment about again? Like what am I holding? I don't need to hold any more baggage because that was my baggage that I didn't feel loved and protected. So I was making like, I was putting so much pressure on all my relationships because I kept looking for that security everywhere I went. But that security was always within me. So I think to understand forgiveness, I needed to tell my inner child first that I was okay. And the moment I said I was okay, I was like, okay, I feel better now. And I don't really need to hold on to these negative emotions because they're just adding to me for no reason. And so the moment I did that, I realized I could have a good relationship with him, irrespective of what he did to me in the past or whatever relationship we had in the past. Irrespective of that, we could have a good relationship now in this like present time. But yeah, I think that's what forgiveness is.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really important takeaway for anyone, right? We grapple with so much of resentment all the time in our everyday life. So even if your family has not gone through something like separation or divorce, but forgiveness becomes very tough. And I think one of the things that I hear from you is the fact that you need to open yourself to various kind of emotions, to the fact that you need to look at your life threadbare and then say that this is an aspect I need to embrace because it's going to heal a lot of what is right now in my life as well as in the past as well. So
Yeah.
I know that it requires a lot of courage to do that kind of introspection as well as open your heart and your mind to accepting things from the past and then embracing them and then seeing that change in the future as well. So
And just believing that the change will happen.
I think that's what I wanted to tell you when I was listening to your story about going to New York, is that you had a very strong belief, and that I firmly believe that if the universe is listening to what you are saying, so if you have ever wanted something really really badly, or you really wanted it, then all the forces in the world will combine to make that happen for you. I think
Yeah.
that's what has been your story as well. So
100%.
yeah, so you also spoke about in one of your Insta posts a very beautiful line about now my ideas of identity are changing. With the change comes fluidity, and with fluidity comes dance. And a friend looked at you in your eye and said that the baggage, you need to give the baggage on your shoulders a break. Can you recollect for us what you wrote next?
I don't remember what I wrote. But I think at that point, when he said that to me, I was like, okay, so I actually need to give my shoulders a break. I do need to stop carrying this stuff and deal with this as like in the right way. Because of course we can go through life like dealing with things and just shoving our feelings under the rug, but it's not going to make us any stronger. The patterns are going to repeat over and over again. And so if I want to make my life better for the future, this stuff, like my foundation needs to be clearer and stronger. So, and for that, I needed to put my bags down. I needed to stop carrying. And I was physically carrying bags. Like my friend wasn't saying emotionally you need to drop your bags down. He wasn't saying that. He was actually saying, dude, you're carrying so many bags all the time. And that's like physically and emotionally weighing me down.
Right.
So now, if you look at me, I don't carry as much. I have like just like physically stopped carrying as much because it somewhere emotionally also starts, you know, affecting you. And you realize you're safe, you're okay. You don't need to carry like one whole Girl Scouts bag full of things. You know, you pull it out like a cat and like you don't need all that stuff with you. Stuff is just, it's like you're trying to fill up some void in between you. So when you stop trying to do that, you realize you're actually safe and you're fine. So yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember what my last thing was after that though.
Maybe before we end, you could, you know, come back with that line that you wrote, and I will wait for you to recollect that line. We have a lot of people who have joined us live. So hello everybody who's joined in to hear Juhi. I'm sure this is a very, very interesting journey. We would love to hear if you have any questions. You can type it out and we will take it before we end the session. So if you have any questions for Juhi, please put it down in the chat box there. So yeah, Juhi, I want to ask you a little bit about this beautiful line that you wrote. Some mornings I am a hot mess, needing time to breathe and to remind myself that I'm home, I'm safe, and everyone I love is right here coming to terms with the same grief. I read this line so many times, and it really hit me because this has been probably a little bit about my journey as well, as an estranged mother, as someone who went through a divorce, and then finding my purpose through working for families who've gone or going through a similar crisis, and then understanding that there is a lot of hope and there is a lot of love to give back, and then just trusting the journey and trusting the universe that it will do what it has to do on the right time. And when you say that you know, you're coming to terms, and everybody is coming to terms with their grief, it's like it's a universal degree of compassion that you show towards the whole world. And then you realize that what you're going through is just a small speck on an ant's back in this entire universe that we have. Right?
Yeah.
So tell us what drove you to write this. It wasn't the Chennai weather, right?
It wasn't the Chennai weather. It was, to an extent, the change that I was going through. Like I expected to go back to New York at around the same time, but then the isolation sort of made me stay back. And I think at that point I realized that this uneasiness that all of us were feeling at this point of time had to do with a sort of grief, a grief for a life that we might not live again, a grief for a loss of, you know, these experiences that we were supposed to.